on a dreary morning here in western North Carolina. It's rained for days, and I'm looking forward to getting down to the beach again, where it might rain or it might not, but I'll have the wonderful ocean to enjoy instead of this little stream that's running down a couple hundred feet below my house that accumulates whenever it rains a lot. So this photo is from last year, and I'd have to go back and look. We made 2 trips to the ocean last year, and I think this was the spring one, but I don't remember. It doesn't matter. We were happy, very, very happy. And normally my pages are telling a story. And the thing I get the most comments about is that you like having pages with multiple photos. And I love doing pages with multiple photos. I'm going to look back and see if I have something that would go with this, and I might add a small supplemental photo to the page. But primarily this is a single photo page, and it's not really telling a story as much as it is talking about a feeling. And so that's something I don't do as much in my scrapbooking or journaling or anything, but it's an important thing to capture. And these kinds of pages, I get to do fun, pretty things, sometimes play with mixed media, which is what I'm going to do today. And they usually are the pages that are at the beginning of my album or at the end of the album. So they can set the tone, or they can leave you as you leave the album with this, you know, how wonderful it is, how wonderful life can be. So it's all about us in this photo. I am wearing a shirt here that is from the early 1990s. I've had it about 25 years, and it's my walk on the beach shirt. It's very often my crafting shirt. It's indestructible apparently. And there was this branch that had washed up on the shore from one of the storms. So this may be a fall picture, and it may have even been the year before, I don't remember. But that's actually, that makes me think this must have been a fall picture, and we would walk around that every time. So anyway, so there's a little bit of story, but mainly it's just about that wonderful feeling of being by the ocean. And what I want to do with this, I got the idea from an art journal page I was doing. I have a piece of textured cardstock, I have a piece of deli paper, I have a bunch of paint laying out here. I'm going to probably change some of the colors. This was the art journal page that I did recently. I had not art journaled in 6 months. So I decided I wanted to play a little bit one day, and I got my art journal out. I had this idea to put some paint down, put some deli paper, crumpled up deli paper over top, use some mist, and see what I could come up with. And I really liked the look that was created. And I want to do something like this on my scrapbooking page. I even did a little extra sheet of paper as I was playing around with this, and maybe I could do something else with this at some point. But you can tell from that the textures that I got and the really cool look that you got when you added the mist in this. Now, if I went over this with another layer, this would probably run because that mist is water soluble. So it's not a waterproof kind of page, but it is, I think it's going to be a fun page to do for this beach theme. I won't do so many of these bright colors. I want to convey that mood of tranquility, so I'm going to be using some of my blues and grays, and might try to find some accent color in here, maybe just a touch of a cream tone to it. I don't know. We'll see what I have when I start pulling out paints. Before I do any of that, though, I thought I might do some stitching on the page, which is not something you can really do in an art journal. Or I don't, well, I suppose you could maybe fold that around and do some stitching, but I haven't ever tried that. What I'm going to do for stitching is I have my sewing machine set up right now to do free motion quilting. I'm working on this large quilt. I am not very good at this. I just started learning to do it last year, and I thought, but I've never tried it on paper. I've stitched on paper many times, but I've never done it with free motion quilting. So I changed the needle to an older needle, because I didn't want to ruin my good needle going through paper, and I left the thread that was in there, which is a cotton thread, and just took a piece of, in this case, kind of lightweight cardstock and did some of the stitching. And with free motion quilting, your machine is not pulling your paper, you are doing all the guiding. You control the stitch length by the speed that you're going and how you move your paper. And where you move your paper controls where your stitches are. So it can be very smooth curves, it can be very rocky curves, it's just, you know, it's just whatever you do with the paper. And I'm looking for this you know, artistic kind of look and just more random. I'm not really trying to create a pattern. I'm not trying to create pretty waves to emulate the beach. I'm just trying to create a fun pattern, and I think I'm gonna leave the cotton thread in there and see how it does soaking up the colors of the paints and the mists. So I'm going to put some of this on the background. The page is going to, the photo is going to be in the lower right hand corner, so I'm going to concentrate more of my stitching around in here. And then we'll come back and we'll add some more fun features to this page. So I'm going to set up the camera over at the sewing machine so you can see a little bit about what I'm doing there. I have marked down here in the lower right corner photo, where the photo is going to go on the paper, so I'll know kind of where to start here with this. If you've ever been interested in doing free motion quilting or seeing quilting and want to try this, if you have on your sewing machine, you may already have a free motion quilt. This is a free motion foot. This is one that's open-toed. You don't have to have that. You can use whatever one that comes with your machine, but you'll need the instructions for your machine on how to set things up, your tension and everything, and it's worth playing with. It's a fun thing to try, but you are controlling everything when you're on the free motion setting. So to get myself started, I am going to drop my presser foot part way down, which is the way the FAF works for doing free motion quilting. And I'm going to go ahead and pull my bobbin thread up. You don't have to do this, but it's sort of become a habit in working with it on quilts, as it makes a neater finish. Alright, I made a mistake a minute ago. My camera shut off because the batteries died, and I put new batteries in it, and I started talking, and I started sewing, and I hadn't pushed the record button. So I have done a fair amount of the stitching already, and I'm going to continue and do a little bit more. When you are working with free motion quilting, how fast you press down on the presser foot and how fast, or on how fast you control the speed and how fast you move the paper determines your stitch length. And then of course you control where the swirls or straight lines or whatever you're doing is going, because you're controlling where the paper goes. So now you can see a little bit of the stitching here. And I'm going to get over in this photo area. I hadn't really planned to continue over in this part, but since I didn't film it later or earlier, I'll just go ahead and keep going. I'm speeding up a little bit. It's a fun thing to try as I'm speeding up, but I'm not moving my paper quite as fast, so I'm ending up with a little bit smaller stitches. And that should do it. And then I can just raise the presser foot and pull this out, just like any other stitching. Okay, so we can see my stitching here. This was some that I did before when I didn't have the camera turned on. And some of it's kind of rough and pointy, and others is smoother, curves, smaller stitches, bigger stitches. You know, the more practice you have with this, the better you do, and I'm still learning. And that's the first time I've done this on paper too, so that made it move differently than fabric. So those are all my excuses for why it looks all kinds of different ways. That's fine though. I'm just looking for some texture here. So before I get to the photo and all those things, I want to add some paint, and that's going to cover some of this, but we're going to try to keep the paint light. And I picked some blues and aqua and just a little bit of purple and beige here. So just put a few of these colors out. This is some Martha Stewart Pearl paint, which I didn't shake up. I should have. So I've got all my colors here now, beachy colors, in the bottom of an old soft drink container bottle. I keep a lot of plastic things that you would throw away or recycle in a little basket of those in my scrap room for paint palettes. That's what I use them for, or for mixing up gel medium with color and things, as you'll see that in a little bit. Now I'm adding some beige around this too to kind of go with the sand effect, and then mostly blues and greens. The pearl paint gives a wonderful shimmer, and you're going to see some fun effects when we add that, we combine that with the mist in a little while. So there's nothing artistic necessarily about this. It's just throwing down some paint. Some of it gets into the stitching and some doesn't. And then I'm taking a piece of deli paper. You could use tissue paper as well, crumpling it up, and then I'm going to glue that with Mod Podge onto my page. And so there'll be some areas that will have this deli paper and some areas that won't. And it'll add some nice texture, and what you'll really see is how the mists and things interact with the paper and those crinkles. It's the crumpling it up that's really important. And this doesn't all have to completely dry until you get to the point with the mists, which I'll be doing next. After you do the mists, it needs to completely dry before you do anything else. But up until this point, the glue can stay a little bit wet. I go off and leave it for just a few minutes, but I come back and fairly quickly start putting the mists on there. And I'm sprinkling a few of them. That last one was a color called Manila, I think. It's an old one that I've had, and I just want a little bit of that brown, and what happens when it interacts with the pearl paint, it turns gold. I did not know it would do that, and it was a really nice effect that I got. And this is a Heidi Swapp mist. It's kind of a navy color, and it also is really beautiful. I've used it with beach colors before, but the colors are becoming just wonderful, rich colors, and my favorites. I love blues and greens. So I put some water on them, and I have a few of these that I don't add water to. And I'm turning it all directions to let that water run, and it goes into the crinkles of the deli paper. And now you can see after it's dried, and you got those little gold bits there, and it's just a really cool effect. Now I know I want to add some stenciling, and I had one stencil there, a little more detailed, larger stencil, and when I did the art journal page, I used a really detailed stencil. I ended up using this one that I had cut. I think I may have cut this on the Cricut a long time ago. It's just a really simple design, and I'm using some gel medium and perfect pearls to add my silver. You could also do silver paint, but you get a richer silver color with the perfect pearls. Now what you'll find with this is it looks very much like a big flower now, but when I pull this up, you're only going to see the negative space, and that's, in this case, not going to really give you that much of an effect because I didn't use a really detailed stencil. It's not bad, but I think it would have been better with a little more detailed stencil. I like the end effect once the silver dries, is it almost looks sort of like waves at the beach, and so for my page it's fine, but I think depending on the look you were going, a more detailed stencil might have worked out well. I did feel like I needed to map my photo, and I wanted something white, so I grabbed an old doily, and I thought it was a little too regimented or too something with with those edgings, so I tore the edging. And then I have a secondary photo and some old frames from Maya Road that look like Polaroids, so I'm going to add that with the secondary photo. I really got into my old stash. These are some letters from Basic Gray that I've had a long, long time, but I knew I had enough ease to make peace. And then Joy in this sparkly thickers. And the one I decided to use for the photo is a sunrise. And now I'm going through my various embellishments because I feel like I need something to sort of connect the photo with the rest of the page. And I've looked at some trims, I've looked at some beads, I have these wood veneer pieces, and every time I pull these out, I think they're beautiful until I lay them on something and they look like antlers. And they just never seem to quite work. That one's a little too large.
I do have some great gemstones there. I love this silver thing. I only have one of those left. I think it came from one of the craft stores, and I don't have but one of them left. That's not a bad piece. It's kind of small, but I feel like I need something a little bit rounder. And I love wood veneer, so I looked at wood veneer pieces until I found the one that said "Be Free," and I thought, okay, that's just a great one to use there, because that's the feeling that you get. And this page is all about evoking feelings. I've got some great trims. I had just a little bit left of this one that's very beachy looking, and so I trimmed it in half, and I'm just going to tuck it around the two photos. The one in that little Polaroid, I painted that wood veneer with some off-white paint and added a little bit of vintage photo ink around the edge. I did that kind of off camera. And I've decided to use these pearls because they go with the color, and I'm just trying to go from the photo outward, and so they're going to help me make that connection. And a lot of times I cut up the acetate like I'm doing here so I can lay them on the paper and see how much I need and where I want them to go. And right now it's a little much. I need to scale it back and maybe just do a couple of small bits to sort of work from that corner out. And before I put those on, I decided to add a few of these little gemstones. I've had these a long time. I bought them sort of in bulk in a bunch of different colors. And they really work with this. Sparkle and just look very, very pretty. I ended up gluing all this stuff with Tombow adhesive. I thought I'd have to get my hot glue gun going, but the Tombow worked pretty well here. So we're going to put these gemstones on. I believe these came from Michael's. Either Michael's or Hobby Lobby. I've gotten them both places. And I keep them for mixed media things, and they look good on scrapbook pages, so don't add too much bulk. Okay, and that just sort of goes with that swirly effect there. And I'm going to glue the rest of these things on, and then we'll take a look at the final page.
So we started with this as inspiration, using the paint and the deli paper, added a little stitching and did some stenciling in a silver tone, and this is the page that we ended up with, and I just really love it. I have some frames that they're kind of shadow box type frames that I can put my scrapbook pages in, and I have one, I haven't changed it in years, so I want to put this one in that shadow box frame so we will see it more frequently. It's on the first floor of the house, the main level of the house where everything else is, so it's something we can both enjoy, and I wish it were more in the light where I have it hanging, because I don't know that you're going to get to see all this pretty color where it is, but it's beautiful with the light shining on it, all of the effect of that pearl paint and the mists that we have there, and then added these little gemstones, a secondary photo, a doily. Used lots of older product that I've had for quite a while. This set of letters doesn't have a lot of good letters left in it, but it had the word joy in there. I always think these are neat, these ampersands, and I never seem to use them. So I'm really pleased to be able to put all this together on a page that will eventually be either the beginning of the page or the last page, probably the last page, in an album for last year. So thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and it was a little longer than normal, but we did a lot of fun things with this layout. Thanks again.